As a driven entrepreneur, you have goals to get to the next level. And you probably already know that to get to the next level, the fastest way to do that is to hire your team. But you might be being held back by this one question that's very common. And that question is, what if I hire the wrong person? What if I waste all this time and energy and money by hiring the wrong person? If that's you, keep listening. We're going to cover that and more in this episode. Welcome to the show. This is the Joe Sova Business Show. I'm your host, Joe Sova. Thank you for being here. If you don't know me, I help entrepreneurs rapidly scale their business and build their team so that they can impact more lives, create more income, and impact all those around them as well. So if you're here, the fact that you're here means you are likely a driven entrepreneur. You have goals, you have dreams, you have a vision to do something bigger than what you're doing now. Am I right? And if that's the case, you're in the right spot. So welcome. Welcome, and I'm glad you're here. And you'll be glad you're here as well. As you listen to this episode and watch the rest of this or listen to the rest of this, you're going to discover the answer to this question that you may be having. You probably have thought before, I know I need to build my team, but what if I hire the wrong person? What happens then? I put in all this time, I put in a bunch of money, put in a bunch of resources, I train them, and then they don't work out for whatever reason, right? Maybe they were terrible hire. Maybe something better comes along for that person, whatever. But what if I hire the wrong person and they screw everything up? You ever thought of that? I'm sure you have, if you're like most people out there. That answer, we're going to get into now. So stick with me here. Okay. And there's two parts to that answer. One of those parts, I'm going to cover several pieces of that, and you'll know what I mean here momentarily. So stick with me here. All right. But that question, what if I hire the wrong person? When you ask yourself that, it brings up fear, right? You're likely coming from a place of the unknown, right? You're unsure what's going to happen next. If I hire them, what will happen? That's really what's happening here. Is you're looking for a sure thing. You're looking for an actual answer as to, if I hire Johnny or Sally or whoever it is, what's going to happen next, right? That's what's behind that question of, what if I hire the wrong person? Okay. Now you as an entrepreneur, as a driven entrepreneur, you know, you have a desire to change lives. You have a desire to build something bigger than yourself. And it's so critical that you build your team. The fastest way for you to make the impact that you want, to make the income you want, is to build your team. And the only way to do that is to hire somebody. There's no other way to do it. Okay. So that is building your team. And the world needs you. The world needs what you have to offer and the way you service. So that fear is holding you back from living your greatness in your business and impacting the lives that you can impact. All right. Here's the other side of that. The person that is right for you to hire is out there. Okay. They're out there somewhere, right? That role you have in your business, that job that you need help with, somebody's out there waiting for that opportunity. That is their calling. That is their desire, their way to help people through their gifts and talents, just as yours is being an entrepreneur, being a visionary, being somebody who has that driven personality, those goals that want to achieve more and grow and grow. There's somebody out there that wants to be the right-hand person. They want to be that integrator. They want to be that second in command. They want to be that admin person, whatever it is, that social media manager, that office staff, whatever it may be. Somebody's out there, and that is their purpose. And so by you waiting to hire that person out of fear of hiring the wrong person is actually limiting other opportunity for those out there. So think about that. Consider that for a second, that this is bigger than just your business. This is bigger than just that one simple question of, what if I hire the wrong person? Because that's not even the question to be asking. All right. This is part one of the answer. I know you're looking for the answer and you're waiting for me to get to it, but that's not even the question to ask. So it's not a matter of, what if I hire the wrong person? The question to ask yourself is, what if you don't hire the right person? All right, I'm going to say that again very slowly, so to let that sink in. If you take anything from this episode, this is the point. All right, it's not a matter of, what if I hire the wrong person? It's a matter of, what will happen to your business? Think of 6 months from now, 12 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, if you don't hire the right person, that person that's waiting to help you, where will your business be at? Where will your clients be at that you can't reach because you're too busy doing all this stuff, right? You're waiting to hire this second in command. And because you're waiting out of fear, you're not able to market yourself more. You're not able to work in your zone of genius more to reach more people. Those people have to wait longer for you and you for them, right? It's a cycle. So don't ask, what if I hire the wrong person? Ask yourself, what if I don't hire the right person that is waiting for me out there right this second? That is the critical thing. Now, that's a high level. All right. That's the big picture. I like that stuff. I like going deep into the different levels. If you listen to any of my episodes and other content, you know that I enjoy that stuff. All right. So that's the high level view from above, if you will. To ask yourself that question. Now, I know a lot of you out there, because I hear this, it's like, okay, Joe, I like the deep thinking, the deep thoughts, and you're making me very introspective, looking at myself here. But give me the steps, give me the logical things that have to happen. What is still, the question still remains, what if I hire the wrong person? So, okay, we'll get there. We're getting there right now. So stick with me. There's several parts to this that I'm going to cover. You're going to like this. You're going to love it, actually, because this is going to help answer that question from a logical perspective. However, don't gloss over the first part. All right. If you're like most successful entrepreneurs, you know you need to dig deep in order to find the right answers. And part of that right answer is asking yourself, if I don't hire the right person, how is that going to impact my business? All right. So that's really step number one in answering this question. On to the left brain logical stuff that some of you have been itching for and scratching for and waiting for during this episode. We're there now. All right. So what if I hire the wrong person? First of all, you may or may not realize this yet, but hiring somebody starts well before you bring them on board, well before you interview them, well before you do anything else. All right. So think of it this way. If you're deciding to drive across town, whatever town you may live in, and you're going to take a car ride from point A to point B within your city. All right. You're going to go somewhere in your vehicle. All right. There's a chance that car ride doesn't work out, right? Something bad happens. You get in a car wreck. You run out of gas, right? Whatever happens, you get in a fender bender. Okay. Something could happen. This is known every single time you step in your vehicle, pull out of the driveway and hit the accelerator, the gas pedal. Okay. There's a chance that it doesn't work out, just like there's a chance somebody you hire doesn't work out. Now, what can you do ahead of time, right? So limiting that exposure, preventing a car accident doesn't start when you're right next to the other vehicle that's driving, swerving crazy or running the red light. It doesn't start then. It starts well before that, all right? You might have a vehicle that has certain safety features, right? You purchase a vehicle because of the safety. It has the cross traffic alert system, or it has the backup camera, or it has the bells that go off if you're changing lanes by accident, or whatever it is. All right. There's safety features and alerts within your vehicle to help prevent something from going wrong, an accident, right? You might drive a certain speed limit, right? Maybe you're in a residential area, so you drive under 25 miles an hour. At least you should, right? You're preventing that accident by following those steps ahead of time. You're going to buckle your seatbelt, right? First thing, you get in your vehicle, you buckle your seatbelt. That's going to help prevent injury in case an accident happens, right? You're doing all these things to help yourself in preparation if something doesn't work out, right? The same applies to your business when you hire somebody. So when you're asking yourself, what if I hire the wrong person? It's a matter of preventing some of those risks ahead of time. And there's several ways to do that I'm going to cover right now. Things like within the interview process. All right. You can set up tripwires and what I would consider landmines, if you will, to screen out poor candidates. All right. So you're worried about making the wrong hire. Make sure that you're screening those out ahead of time. And there's ways to do that, from certain questions to ask or tasks to give them ahead of time. You can do certain reference checks, background checks, things of that nature. All right. I cover all of that in some of my other material in some of the programs. So check out the website if you're interested. There's some information on that and other podcast episodes. But you can set up tripwires and qualifications within the interview process to weed out those individuals that are going to be, quote unquote, the wrong hire. Okay. So you're preventing ahead of time. That's number one. Only you can prevent forest fires, right? Right. Smokey the Bear told us that we can prevent forest fires. He wasn't saying we can put out forest fires. It was we prevent them ahead of time, right? You don't light your cigarette in the dry forest in the middle of summer and throw it out, right? it's important to take those steps ahead of time and make sure that that fire doesn't escalate into a quote unquote bad hire. Okay. So that's number one, limit your exposure and prevent risk ahead of time by doing certain things within the interview process. Another step in that I cover in our program, where we help you build your team, is talking about your alignment with your goals and your mission and your vision of your company, right? Making sure that you're aligned with those candidates that you're hiring, right? As long as there's an alignment with that portion, then you're going to have more success likely later on when you guys are working together. All right. So if you bring in somebody who is not aligned with your vision and your outlook on the company, let's say you're a business, you're an online business who has big goals, and you bring somebody in from the corporate world who wants to climb the corporate ladder. Well, if you're a business of one and they're employee number one, right, number two next to you, there is no ladder to climb within your company, right? That's a misalignment. So you've got to align people with your own goals. So all of that within the interview process is important to prevent those quote unquote bad hires ahead of time. Okay. Step two, logical step two, set the expectations up front. All right. So when you're discussing hiring somebody and bringing on a new team member and building that part of your team, what are the expectations, right? What does success look like for that person were they to come on to your company? Right? A lot of people gloss over this and they say, do you have a pulse? Do you have a resume I can read? You're hired. You start tomorrow. You probably already understand that that's not the way to do it, right? The way to do this is to have a step-by-step process. And part of that is setting expectations up front before you bring them onto your team so that they understand what success looks like and you understand what success looks like. This isn't a one-way street, right? Both the employee and yourself need to know what is success, right? What are they doing? What are they responsible for? What are they accountable for? What are you holding them accountable for? How will you do that? All of those things come into play and setting those expectations. All right. So once that is clear and everybody's on the same page, it's much easier to have those conversations of, well, this didn't go right. What do we need to do differently next time? Right. And that quote unquote bad hire risk drops down even more. Oftentimes, you may not realize this yet, but oftentimes it's not necessarily the employee who's the problem. It's the process that's a problem. We talk all about process in other episodes in some of the other course material that I do. So you can check that out as well. But if you don't have the process and the expectations up front, that can come back later to be a quote unquote bad hire. Okay. The next step in that is communication. All right. So you can tell these kind of overlap each other, right? So we're preventing risk ahead of time. We're setting expectations up front. And communication, you have to have feedback, right? You have to have that open line of communication. It's not just, here you go, here's a project, good luck, I'll see you later, right? That's maybe what you do with a VA or something like that. But if you're building a team, especially an in-house team, you need regular feedback loops. You need regular communication. You need to have that trust in each other to be able to say, this is the way it should be done, or this is the way we need it done in the future because it didn't go well last, whatever, right? Let's agree to handle it a different way next time. Again, that communication is important because you're not necessarily critiquing the person as a human, as a person. You're critiquing the process they're following, and they have a process. Whether you have a documented process in your business or they're making it up in their head as they go as your employee, there's a process being followed. It might be all over the place, but it's being followed. All right. So you have to get feedback. You have to have communication, and there's certain ways to do that. Again, that I cover on other episodes and other areas of clients of mine through some one-on-one and group stuff that I do. All right. Now you may be thinking, is that it? Well, it's not. All right. So sometimes there's just not a good fit, right? Maybe there's a misalignment you didn't catch up front. Maybe there's just something changes, right? Changes happen in your business. Changes happen in their lives as an employee, as a member of your team. Change happens. So maybe it's not a good fit. And maybe it didn't start that way. Maybe it did, whatever. For whatever reason, right now, they're not a good hire, didn't work out, and they're not a good fit any longer. Back to the beginning where we said there's somebody out there waiting for you to give them the opportunity. Maybe this opportunity wasn't for that person you hired. Maybe something wasn't caught up front, and you're doing them a disservice from living their purpose somewhere else, right? And it's just time to cut ties and move on. It doesn't have to be a terrible thing. It doesn't have to be embarrassing. It doesn't have to be stressful. It doesn't have to, give you that sick feeling in your stomach. Oh my gosh, I have to let this person go. you're letting them go to do something bigger and better, right? All of us have a purpose. I think anybody watching this and listening to this episode would agree that all of us have a purpose in our lives. And so if that person's purpose isn't to be within your business at this point in time, that's okay. That's okay. And you can let them go gracefully, right? You're doing not only them a disservice by holding on to them as a not a good fit in the role, but your customers also are going to suffer, right? Your business is going to suffer. So you cannot you know that already. You cannot afford to do that. But that goes back to that open and clear communication, right? I have a saying in some of the group coaching that I do is that, terminating an employee should never be a surprise on either end, right? It should be an open book type situation that expectations aren't being met, or this isn't a good fit for XYZ, but it builds up to that. It's never a pull the Band-Aid off and somebody is blown away. There's ways to do that, right? That's a whole nother episode in and of itself. So I'm not going to cover that today, but terminating somebody and letting them go gracefully doesn't have to be an awful experience all around, and it should never be a surprise. Okay. Now, an opposite end of that is sometimes if they're not a good fit, maybe it's the company, right? Maybe they're misaligned with your company, or maybe it's the role they're in within your company. Would they be better at doing something else, right? If you have somebody who's very outgoing and outspoken and you have them doing back office accounting, maybe they're not great at that, but they'd be really good in front of the customers, right? So analyze their strengths. Again, there's tools out there, different strength finders and things like that you can use to assess people before they're even hired on your team. And hopefully you put them in the right spot. But if they're struggling, if there's a disconnect, then maybe there's a better fit for them. Okay. So it doesn't have to be a you're fired situation. Maybe it's you're moved to a new role, whatever that case may be. Okay. And if it does come to that, right, there's a whole offboarding process where, again, you might be asking yourself still, okay, Joe, all this is great, right? Let's just review for a second, right? The logical steps. You need to limit your exposure in your interview process. You need to prevent the risks ahead of time, right? Throughout the process of hiring somebody and onboarding them in their first 90 days, things like that, setting expectations up front, and having open communication. If it simply doesn't work out, if they're not a fit, you go through an offboarding process, let them go gracefully, document everything. And then what do you do, right? What do you do if you had a bad hire? Do you sit back and start doing everything yourself again? Well, that didn't work one time, right? I got in one car accident, so I'm never going to drive anywhere again. Probably not. All right. Might depend how bad it was, but realistically, you probably will travel. It's not like you're never going to leave your house again. So you hire again. That's the next step. You go back through the process. This is very similar to, I've done a lot of sales in my day, and some of you listening may know that. It's very similar to a sales process, right? Just because one prospect doesn't work out or tells you no, doesn't mean you'll never find another one that works. It simply means you try again, right? You tweak what you're doing, you alter your process, you improve your process, just like in your regular business, right? If a customer comes in and they give you a bad review and they say, let's say you have a pizza restaurant, a guy comes in and says, your pepperoni pizza is awful, right? What do? Maybe you tweak the recipe. You figure out what happens ahead of time, right? Or maybe somebody says the experience was awful, the table was dirty. Well, what do? You figure out a better process, a better way to clean the tables before the customer gets there. You don't take the tables out and say, screw this, I'm going to have them eat on the floor with no tables, right? That would be silly. You figure out a better way to clean the tables. Same thing here. So if you hire the wrong person, you simply find a better way to start hiring. As well as everybody that is successful in business, that hiring a team is the fastest way to scale your business. All right. And growing your business means growing. It's not just revenue. It's not just selling more. You have to have the team behind you to do it. And hiring is part of that. Building your team is part of that, right? If you knew for certain that hiring and building your team successfully would get you your dreams, your goals, your vision, the income, the impact that you dream of when you started your business, you would want to do that, wouldn't you? It only makes sense. There's countless examples, from the major Fortune 500s to the mom and pop down the street that have been there for 30 years. right? It's very unlikely they're doing that all alone. And if they are, they're missing out on a lot of stuff. All right. Family time, unplugged time, right? Vacation. Those things are important. As a driven entrepreneur that you have to refuel the tank once in a while. And part of that, the only way to disconnect from your business is to get the right people in place when you do that. Now, I don't know if you'll find all of this to be the missing piece you need to up-level your business, right? To take it to that next step, that next level, in order to start building that team, that dream team that you know that you need. But if you've listened to any other content, right, you might notice that the successful business owners, those are the ones that know how to create more value, more revenue, more impact. They know that you first create the team around you so that you can focus on your zone of genius. That's what's important here, right? So we'll loop back to the beginning, right? What if I hire the wrong person? What if you don't, right? What if you hire the right person and then explodes your business in a good way? I should specify that. It shouldn't be explode your business in a bad way, right? But if you're asking yourself, what if I hire the wrong person? Switch that up. Imagine for a second what would happen when you hire the right person and they're doing all these little tasks for you that drain your energy, that take your time, that you're spinning the plates, that you're missing the kids' events for, that you're missing the family events, that you're working late on. They're doing all that for you. And you get to focus on what matters in your business, on impacting people, and they're living their purpose and you're living theirs. And you can compound that into more team members, build more, bigger and bigger, bigger. Imagine what that feels like, what that looks like. Pretty amazing, isn't it? And if you're like myself and other entrepreneurs, deep down in your heart, that's exactly what your next step is. And if that's important to you, subscribe to the show, subscribe. We talk about this all the time and you'll get plenty more of action on this. So be sure to subscribe now. Go ahead and click that link. And check out the website. We've got plenty of resources, joesovatraining.com. Plenty of free resources there where it can serve you. Reach out. Let me know your thoughts and how we can serve you going forward. So thank you for listening. And you got this. That's all I can say there. So take care. We'll see you on the next episode.